Discovering possibilities and potential with passion every day. This is a TPPN production.
It's your ability to understand how it works. To understand how it works.
Q-tape. Possibilities Network. And 3, 2, 1. Live from Indianapolis, Indiana, this is the iPad Possibilities Show. With your host, Tim Chapman.
Welcome to the iPad Possibilities Podcast, episode number 77, Liquid Metal iPads. This podcast is supported and sponsored by Gadget Freeway. Check out gadgetfreeway.com for the latest innovative iPad gadgets and accessories, both distributor and producer of some pretty awesome gadgets that we'll talk about a little bit later today. I'm here tonight for the live show with John. How are you doing tonight, John?
How are you doing?
Great. Busy week in the iPad world. We're not going to have a single focus topic, but rather just a bunch of different things to talk about this week. So should be a good show.
Yeah, I think so.
And we got a mic upgrade for you, John. So hopefully should be sounding better for the audio recordings and everything.
Yeah, this Yeti is a very nice thing. And I see you have your little screen in front of yours.
I do. I just got this in the other day. And I figured why not? It will only help get rid of pops or whatever I have.
Right.
I don't think you hear the pops unless you're listening on some, pretty high-end, earphones or whatever. But for those guys that want to listen to it that way, I'll do it. But let's get into the show. And the first section is on app updates and releases of the week and some news regarding apps. And there's been quite a few this week. I think the first one, the big one, I in my book here, there's a lot of big ones, but is the iTeleport update. What they did is they added VGA output support. They did more than just add it. They added support for Bluetooth keyboards. And basically what this does is you hook your iPad into a computer, monitor, or TV, and your iPad now becomes a trackpad, and your Bluetooth keyboard becomes a keyboard. Your monitor TV set becomes the monitor TV set. And you basically have a portable computer now, right?
Very cool.
It's pretty
Very
sweet.
cool.
I tried this out. It works really well.
Yeah, I know. I've been using one of the free apps that use. Now I've just lost it. What is the protocol they use to?
VNC.
VNC. There you go. Thank you. But it's pretty bare bones, and I know you've had iTeleport for a while and have sung its praises a few times.
Yeah, they keep on updating it to add some cool stuff.
It is not one of the cheaper ones, but it sounds like it's certainly got the features to support that price. So I may be spending for that soon.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see if people will start as this technology and these apps get better. If people can just have a single computer and just have a monitor at different places in the house and work wherever you want, basically now. I think that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, more mobility and that's the cool thing about something like iTeleport is it's really starting to provide the ability to have a whole lot more power in your computing on the iPad or now on your television screen. Yeah,
definitely.
Great.
And the other bizarre, I think it's a bizarre app. It's not another one. iTeleport wasn't bizarre, but Cine X Player is kind of a bizarre app. It allows you to play AVI files, which Apple has never... they sort of support on the iPad with that camera connection kit, but they've never officially supported it. And they've got this app now, Cine X Player. It's free. I tried it out. Worked okay. My audio was a bit... not in sync when I watched videos, so it wasn't entirely useful to me. I'm guessing that's because AVI is such a non-uniform standard of video right now.
Yeah, but it's still a pretty nice thing. I mean, AVI tends to be a very good format for putting movies and things like that. If movies that you own
Yep.
that you're going to rip to the to play under fair use on your iPad.
Yeah, it's also a popular file for those that are not so ethical.
Oh, I wouldn't know about that.
The one thing about AVI is the the surround sound stuff's really easy to put in there. So that's one benefit, but that doesn't really translate to the iPad, I don't think.
Yeah, yeah. But still, I mean, it is a great thing that you don't have to re-encode something that you might have already in AVI.
Yeah,
So
definitely. It's another list off the checkbox that all these guys. Oh, it doesn't do this, doesn't do that. Now it does do this. So,
right.
Yeah, I tried it out. It worked decently. I mean, I think it'll get better over time, as all apps do. And I think Air Video is still the way to go with AVI files because I don't know, it feels more iPad-like than this app right now. But that might change in the future.
Well, and it's using the power of your computer to do all that decoding. So that's kind of good if you have a powerful computer. But it's certainly another option, and it's good to have options.
Yeah, definitely. And the way this works is you just install the app, and then through iTunes file sharing system, you just add files, and they sync right over. So it works really well, depending on the file you have, obviously. So the other kind of video one was this Uverse. They updated their iPhone app to include the ability to download over Wi-Fi the stuff you record to your DVR. Are you a Uverse guy, or?
No, I haven't gotten into Uverse, but that certainly sounds like it's a cool thing to do now.
Yep. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I guess you have to be one of the upper level users. So my dad, I asked him about it. It's like, no, I don't get it. It's not for everybody, but for those that have Uverse and are one of those upper level members, I guess, AT&T did a great thing for once. And notice it's over Wi-Fi.
Yeah. So
yeah,
maybe they're just looking for people to have to pay more for their Wi-Fi now that it's capped.
Not their 3G. With that said, I wanted to highlight a jailbreak application that I just found the other day and pretty excited about. It's called Screen Recorder. And as it sounds, it basically all it does is record a very HD quality video of whatever you're doing on your iPad. With the traditional showing where your fingers are by that little white circle. And this means I'm going to be putting out a bunch of video tutorials that are of high quality, I hope. And I'll be recording the video right on the iPad, and you just transfer it over to your Mac or PC over some sort of web browser. And that way you can transcode it into whatever format you need it in. And natively, it records an AVI file, oddly enough.
Now, Tim, is that one that requires jailbreaking?
Oh, definitely. It's it's a $5 app in Cydia, and jailbreak required. But that's another reason I have to have a jailbreak on iPad now. Is I can now do video demos, and I'm gonna be doing I think 2 videos a week, one for app people and one for the premium folks. So I think that'll be one way I do it. I'll kind of record what I'm doing and then do a voiceover, sort of narrating what I'm doing there. So
right.
It's a pretty cool app. So if you're a jailbreaker, check it out.
Yeah, it's a shame that Apple hasn't put that capability in to really record what's going on the screen. You can kind of do that through the simulator and whatnot if you have the developer stuff installed, but it's a shame that it just isn't part and parcel of the iPad is to just plug in that cable and get video out.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I did a video of this. That'll be kind of my first video tutorial is how Screen Recorder actually works, and it's dead simple. You just start the recording, and it starts recording your iPad screen, and you hit stop when you're done recording. You don't even have to hook it into a Mac or anything or a display to capture it. It's captured on the iPad, and the file size is going to be quite big, 2 gigabytes for an 8-minute long video, so you can adjust that. But I wanted to capture the HD, highest possible setting, and it's quite large. They've got low and medium capture settings. But I thought, why not record in high quality and then transcode down from there?
Definitely.
So, screen record. And the next big news is the Square, the readers for credit card transacting and stuff on your iPad are shipping again, according to App Advice and Engadget. And I saw a picture. It looked like they're black now. I'm not sure if they are or if that's something they're doing to kind of differentiate the two generations of readers or not.
Yeah, I didn't realize they were changing colors or anything, but it's good to know that they're available again. These are great boon to a lot of small businesses to be able to very easily take your credit cards and all that good stuff. You got one there, Tim?
I
Great.
do. Yep. I've used it for several consulting and coaching appointments, or actually people pay me by credit card because they're able to hire me for more frequently because cash isn't something everyone has on hand.
Yep.
And it's just easier to work with credit cards, I think.
Yeah, and it's certainly better than taking a
check
check
that you don't know will pass or not.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's Square Up. Go to squareup.com for all the info there. And the app is in the App Store. It's totally free. And with that said, our favorite company in the world, Adobe, has released another app. And it's actually a pretty cool application. It's something I thought they should have done as their first app. It's Photoshop Express. So the idea here is get you hooked up on Photoshop Express, and you go out and buy the $500 regular Photoshop eventually.
Yeah, they've actually had this out for the iPhone for a while.
Oh, have they really? Okay.
Yeah, and I've actually used the iPhone version on the iPad, but I did notice that it's been updated, and it's much better now that it's supporting the large screen, and they've modified it a little bit.
Have they added any substantial features except for making it friendlier for the iPad?
I have not delved into it. I just got it downloaded this morning.
Okay.
But it might have a few extra features, but it's certainly nice that they finally gotten around to it.
Yep, definitely. And this is going to be one of the video tutorials I put out. I thought, hey, this is a pretty cool app and pretty simple, but I did one on this earlier today. That'll be out next week. And another app that I think medical professionals will be interested in is Dragon Medical. It's an iPhone app, but it works on the iPad. Basically, if you heard my last episode on voice, I think it's pretty amazing. And this one's geared at identifying, when you talk about medical stuff, disease and all the terms they use there. And it will translate and I think search for those kind of things there. So
cool.
And my real disappointment is they've got two search applications now, medical and just regular search, and they're not iPad native. I really want Dragon to release a iPad native search application. Right now they got the Dictate, which is beautiful on the iPad, but that search is still an iPhone version. It's driving me insane.
So tell me why it drives you insane. What how is the search really needing to use a full screen?
Well, I'll tell you why. Because it's not a pleasant experience in the blown up version, because what I would like to do is stay in this application to do everything, to actually view the content I'm searching for. And the way it does it now is it's got a very iPhone-like web browser to show your content. And you're able to jump between Wikipedia, Twitter, and all those things, and they're all iPhone optimized, which they're not the best on the iPad. They work. You're able to open it up in Safari. So my experience is I'm searching in this application, and then all I want to do is open the links up in Safari, and I'd rather have a one-stop shop that is pleasant to be in all the time.
I see.
So that's my real complaint, yeah.
All right. Valid. Very valid.
Are you a voice guy, John, or how much do you rely on?
You know, I want to get more into voice, but up to this point, I haven't been too much of a voice guy. I tend to a lot of times be in locations where it's either A, too noisy to really do voice, or B, it's very quiet and you don't want people are like not wanting you to use your voice for very much. So yeah, so
Okay. Yeah, I had that before in school. I always, shared a room or whatever, and I couldn't do dictation to my computer. That'd be so obnoxious in school if you had a dorm room, shared it with someone else, or are in an office that's pretty quiet and you're just talking to your computer all day. That would not work out too well, I don't think. So I'm fortunate to be in an environment where I don't have to deal with that. So
right.
So yeah. The next, I think this is kind of a big story. We've got 20,000 iPad apps now in the App Store. And this is within a couple months here. The iPhone, it took, I think, 8 to 10 months to get that level of applications. And it feels like we don't have that many. I mean, as I'm looking through the App Store, they must be hidden in there because I'm not seeing all these.
It's there's two situations that's happening here. One is that, it was not a complete new thing to develop for the iPad as it was for the iPhone. It took a while because people needed to get on the wagon, as it were. And now we've got all these iPhone developers that can fairly easily produce iPad apps, and not a big huge learning curve, depending upon how sophisticated you want or how great you want to use all the iPad features. But so that's helped it compared to the iPhone. But the other side of the coin is that with however many hundreds of iPhone apps, the iPad apps kind of get lost in amongst them. So we have both things going on there.
Yeah, so I think it's a good number, the reach, and I think we'll only see more and more as time goes by, and we're starting to see those really revolutionary apps come to light. So I'll be very excited to see where we are like a year from now and see just what we're able to do with iPads. It'll be a totally different ballgame. We'll probably have a different iPad to work with these apps on as well.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yep. And I wanted to kind of give a promotion of a website I came across for students. It's a sale from independent developers for both the Mac, iPhone, and iPad of applications that are useful as a student. So I talked about TextExpander a couple weeks ago. If you're a Mac user, you can get it for $20 now if you are a student. It's normally $35 or whatever. And there's a lot of great applications here. It's iappsforstudents.com. And pretty fantastic way to support developers and get some great apps if you're a student.
Very good.
So check it out. And there's a lot of great stuff in there. And let's see here. What's next on the table here? Let's see. We've got, this is something I ran across just minutes before this show started, actually. It's a new application that's coming out pretty soon. Oopsie, I actually got a website went down or something. Let me check that again. So the app is called iSight, and iSight is basically designed to be an iWeb replacement. It's not yet in the App Store, but they've submitted it and everything, and it looks like it might be a good beginning for actually creating web content on your iPad. And the cool thing is you'll be able to, create it on here, publish it on here, and I think it could be a one-stop shop here for creating websites. What do you think as far as, is that something appealing to you, or is that something that I would never want to do that?
No, I think it is rather appealing. I'm not sure that I would typically create a website from scratch on the iPad, but I certainly would be interested in a lot of tools that helped me easily update, the website from the iPad. There'll be there's a lot of occasions where you need to do something on the website, and all you have with you is the iPad because it's such a useful tool. So why not have more tools that can help you really look at updating.
Yeah, definitely. And I think we need a desktop app that's pretty powerful as well, such as I don't know, like a Dreamweaver for iPad that syncs, or an iWeb for iPad, but like a standalone application that everything's done there might not be the way to go for this. Then, and I kind of tend to agree with this, unless you're not updating it very much, because I know. You really want a full desktop computer to do most of this kind of web stuff.
You do, and I think you need to. There are so many tools that we're getting a few of on the iPad, but we're not really there yet. And so, I think I personally have found some cases where I start to do something on the iPad and I kind of run out of steam. I don't have all the apps that I'm used to on the Mac that I could, utilize to achieve my goal. And so I end up having to go back to the Mac as opposed to completing it on the iPad. Mm-hmm. And so, it over time we'll see that shift a bit, but some things are always going to be better on, as Steve Jobs put it, on a truck than on a little sports car.
Yeah, we're kind of in the growing pains area where it's just a painful time where we know this device could do so much more, but there's just not the apps to support it right now. It's very frustrating. Like, I know there could be a garage unit for the iPad, but it just hasn't been done yet. There's some great apps I've been looking into, and I think we're getting close. It's just kind of the growing pain right now of a new operating system for a new device.
Yep, definitely.
And as part of those pains, I wanted to just address some of my rants and oddities I've found as I've been using the iPad. And the first is I loaded up a manual for Mac Speech Dictate. It's a PDF, and as I was reading it, everything around it, the borders and everything within the app is gray. And this is a very depressing color to me, and I'm puzzled why Apple would put the toolbars and everything on this PDF reader in gray instead of blue or some brown color like they use with the regular books. And I'm just puzzled by this. It makes me less excited to read PDFs on my iPad.
I pure conjecture, but I think they're potentially looking at that whole interface kind of disappearing in the background as you read PDFs. Okay. I don't know.
That might make more sense, but I don't know. Just get rid of the toolbar altogether.
Yeah, I don't know why they felt compelled to do it differently than the iBooks.
Yeah, I wish they did the page turns. They could completely mirror it if they wanted to, I think.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's just one thing. It's just been bothering me. And even more than that is these kind of go up and they kind of escalate as far as how much they bother me here. And the address book in portrait mode bothers me to no end. It's vertical mode. It has all this black space around it because it was designed to be in landscape mode, but Apple just said, "Hey, let's do the same thing, but let's just make it smaller." They don't do any sort of window with a little pop-up. It's so bizarre. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it doesn't quite follow their interface guidelines.
No, they could have made a clock that way. If they built address book that way, they could have easily made a clock that wasn't as beautiful as it needs to be.
Yeah, it's always funny how some of Apple's teams don't. I wonder whether they finish some of these things really early on before they've solidified the right way of doing something, and they don't want to go back and fix it. So they just roll it out as, well, this one's done this way. It doesn't follow the guidelines, but it's free and it's
who cares? It's only one of the most essential apps for people. I mean, yeah, it's a pretty essential app. I use it like on a daily basis. It's not like, I don't know, what app do you not use that's built into the iPad? That's a good question. What apps don't you use that Apple gives you?
Well, quite frankly, I don't use the contacts address book that much. I use it much more on the iPhone or on the Macintosh. And I probably would use it more on the iPad, except it's not incredibly more powerful than the iPhone version. I think there's a few other things you can do with it, but a lot of the things that I want to do occasionally, I have to go to the Mac. If I want to deal with groups and grouping and different things like that, it seems like I always have to go back to the Mac to do that. So, yeah, I don't use it on the iPad all that much, that often.
I'm loading up what apps you get here on that stock iPad. So this is just a random thing. I don't think we're talking about this at all. But we've got.
I don't use YouTube very often.
Okay, YouTube
and that's probably just because I don't use YouTube all that often. I actually see YouTube clips more often from like a Twitter post or something like that in a browser as opposed to through the YouTube app.
Yeah, so we got calendar, contacts, notes, maps, videos, YouTube, iTunes, App Store settings, Safari, Mail, Photos, and iPod. And I think for me, it's got to be videos and probably the Photos or Notes application that I don't use at all. I think videos is the big one because I think Air Video should be installed by default on your iPad instead. I think we should get rid of video syncing. I mean, you do it for plane rides, right? But
yeah, I do use videos occasionally. And there's, as you read those off, it was interesting to me to realize that other than probably Safari and Mail, most of those I don't use certainly every day. Now, actually, the calendar I probably do use every day or almost every day. But those three, the calendar, Safari, and Mail are probably the only ones that I even think about most of the time as an app that I need to use.
Yeah.
That comes from Apple. Everything else is third party.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of interesting. It's like this is just random. This is not in the show notes. It's like, what apps come on this iPad? What are we actually using still? And I use iBooks, but it doesn't come on your iPad.
Right.
So there's a lot of great Apple apps, but there's some that could do better. I hope they have this clock included on this OS 4 that comes out later this year. That'll be a big disappointment if they don't add that.
Yeah, I can't imagine why they didn't put a clock on the iPad. It just doesn't make sense. But
they ran out of time, John. No pun intended. Right. But the final ranter oddity I had is moving apps around the iPad is such a laborious, painful process, having to move one app at a time. And the reason I ran across this is my iPad crashed, and I needed to fix up my iPad again. And for an odd reason, it didn't restore to its original Infinity Board settings. It might have been because of the OS upgrade, but whatever reason, I had to move. Literally, I've got 256 apps on my iPad right now, and I found an application to solve this big bug I was saying. Is that's a multi-icon mover for jailbreak iPads. And all you do is highlight as you're moving, and you just touch each application, and it puts a check mark there. You move to the screen you want to go to, and you hit the home button once. It's on that screen, and then you touch the other apps, and you can move them around to different screens. And it seems like a very Apple-y way to do this. And I wish they would add that to the native OS. So, yeah.
Really, that might be a reason to jailbreak right there.
Really is.
Because I agree with you that moving stuff around on the iPad is just, I thought it was bad on the iPhone, but maybe it's because of the bigger screen, but it seems to be even more difficult on the iPad. And particularly now, since everybody's getting used to folders on the iPhone, and not having them on the iPad is just awful.
Yeah, it really is. The folders is the one thing that's driving me insane. Not insane, but it drives me nuts. I use basically each page is its own folder as I use Infinity Board to just scroll down or whatever. So, yeah, those are my rants. If you have any rants or things that are just bugging you, I'd love to hear them and see if I've just missed these or what's going on. You can email me at iPadPossibilities@gmail.com. And with that said, let's move. We talked about students earlier, about that sale going on at iAppsForStudents.com. Apple has been making a little bit of a move for education with offering educational discounts for 50% off for, I guess, large purchase orders of these applications. And I was looking into this. I was hoping a single individual, a student, could, apply and get a discount, but it doesn't seem to be the case, right?
No, it's really a volume purchase. It's not so much educational discount. It's really a volume purchase. and that's what they're really focusing on. And so, I think what they're trying to do is really make the iPad more economical for schools to use.
Yeah.
And that's a great thing.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, we, as a developer, we just had the request, to whether we wanted to participate in the program or not, and we will. So it's I think something that probably all developers should really consider doing, because it's good. It's good for schools, and good to get these iPads into these young, informative children, to make them iPad fanatics for life.
Oh yes. and the way I actually found out about this is I follow Ken Case, and he tweeted all the Omni apps are going to have an educational discount. It's like, what? How is this possible? And then I saw later, Apple's doing some sort of special stuff with that. And the big thing, I think Apple might sell a lot more of their Pages, Numbers, and Keynote apps, because they'd each be $5 each. That's $15 for an Office suite per device, which is pretty compelling. And basically, each iPad could have those on it, and you'd have a pretty good workstation. You could put OmniGraph on there for $25, I guess. And yeah, so that's pretty compelling, I think.
Yeah, it's very compelling, and will give schools the ability to really put stuff out there.
And another question: you can have 5 apps or 5 devices per application if it's sunk through iTunes. Is that correct? I believe.
Right.
And
right.
how would schools then buy one app for 5 iPads at this discount, or is the idea that they'll buy one app per iPad? Because I know technically the license is one app per 5, right?
Well, it's technically the license is one app per 5 for an individual or a household, not a school.
Okay.
So really, that's schools technically shouldn't be putting it on 5 devices, a single version.
Yeah.
And really, it would be kind of a nightmare to try to keep track of all that, because it's kind of each instance of iTunes.
Yeah, I was wondering about this. I, as an individual, cannot purchase the same app twice, right? It'll say
Correct.
You've already purchased the application. Do you want to download it again? Do you know how educations go about purchasing multiple copies of apps? And
I
how
do
that
not.
system works? Okay.
I do not.
That'd be something interesting to find out, because
Yeah.
it's always been a hard thing to do. It's like it's kind of built in to protect you, which is a great thing that they do.
Right.
So yeah, I'd be interested to find out more about this. I think it's kind of a big announcement from Apple. Big announcement. They just sent developers an email.
But it's important stuff, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. And they do offer, I think, bulk discounts for purchasing iPads for schools as well. So they've got the hardware and the software niche here.
Yep.
So yeah, it's good stuff. You found some articles on USA Today this week. We can talk about a couple of those here.
Yeah. So the interesting thing is, I was traveling this week, and I happened to stay at a hotel that provided a USA newspaper every morning, and so obviously I've been aware of the USA iPad app and using it, but it'd been a while since I actually had the USA newspaper. And I was just surprised at a given week, random week this week, out of 4 days actually 3 days that I got the newspaper, 2 of those days had iPad related stuff that was like, either on the front page or very prominent in a particular section. So on August 10th, there was an article, Learning Curve Goes Digital, and this is about schools using the iPad. And let me see if I can pull it up here. Put it actually on camera. It's below the fold. Sorry.
Yeah, very cool. It's like is that front page or?
Yeah, front page of the Life section. I'm really bad with trying to get.
Yeah, it's hard to line that up there. But colleges and universities across the nation are embracing iPads.
It's all about the iPad starting to be used, and in different schools. And one of the schools, they actually show a picture as they continue the cover story. Excuse my rattling the paper here.
Of course, the old paper.
Is here's a student who's actually starting medical school, and besides the traditional white lab coat, they're getting an iPad loaded up with
In the traditional
whatnot.
white box.
yes. So they have textbooks and things in medical school. So it's the UC Irvine Medical School in California. So it's just interesting, certainly, and I think this may have appeared in the iPad version of USA Today. If not, then I suggest anybody who's interested in reading up on it to go to USA's website or the iPad version.
And the debate often comes as use an iPad or a Kindle for textbooks, and I think it's the stupidest conversation ever. It's why would you want a Kindle for textbooks? It's non-color. You can't move around the book quickly, and I think an iPad's a no-brainer if you're going to choose each.
I know they recently have interviewed students, and they talk about how they wouldn't. Not all of them were interested in digital books because they want to be able to leaf through them and find references and things like that, as opposed to be limited to only seeing one page at a time. Quite frankly, I could see that if you're referencing several books at one time, that might be difficult to do with one screen. But
and one thing that was brought up by a sibling of mine that is in college right now and does not like the idea of digital textbooks is many teachers want you to have the same version and be able to jump to the same page to discuss things. And how is that going to happen if it's ebook formats? And I think I don't know, it's sort of valid, but I think you can search for a sentence if people are talking about it. You can pretty quickly find things. I don't know.
I experienced this in when I was taking my master's degree, and we were doing a lot of stuff online. And one of the issues was references. If you're doing a paper and you need to cite sources, and so sometimes it's, if you're using an electronic book, it's not really a website, and you're trying to cite a source, and it makes it a little more difficult. And I think they really need to solve that problem. But I think it's definitely something that can be solved.
Yeah.
But I think the iPad is really because of the speed, because of color. I think it becomes much more natural to be a tool for a student, a general learning tool, as opposed to just reading a text in a book.
Right.
That's what a Kindle is good for, reading text.
I think it's a great setup to have like an iMac or a Mac Mini as your main working machine at the desk. And then what I did, like my last semester of school, and the iPad was released, it was kind of brand new. I used it as my note-taking device. I had my textbooks in there, and it was much better than a laptop because it lasted all day, and I could just grab it and go. I didn't have to worry about breaking anything or getting it. It was just a light little thing to grab. It's like a notebook.
Yeah.
And the real question I think that we're gonna have is when the iPad was initially released, is those people over at one of the textbook companies kind of leaked that, hey, we're gonna be on the iPad. They weren't mentioned on the Apple press event because they leaked, hey, an iPad's coming out tomorrow. And I'm not sure if they're in the iBook store today. Are they? Are textbooks available there yet?
I haven't looked for textbooks, and it will be interesting to see. I'm sure there will be some. If they're not now, there will be some soon, because Apple's certainly with this volume purchase agreement thing is really focusing on the fact that schools should be using iPads more, and textbooks is part of that.
Yeah. I know the Kindle marketplace is quite a few, but it'd be good to see in the iBook store. And I'll have a full episode I'm working on for, students and iPads. How do they get along? And, faculty and iPads, teachers and all that. So I'm
Right.
working on that. I think it'd be a good thing to have for the school year starting off here. So, with that said, iPads saving cities paper costs. This was also
Right.
in USA Today.
So the same day in USA Today, we had this article which talks about. It's kind of interesting. It talks about several city councils have picked up on the iPad as a way of avoiding printing out huge amounts of paper for city council members. So you get them an iPad, and anything that they need to talk about or whatever is on that iPad. But what the article is really focused on is the fact that there's some concern about public record and the iPad, and so there are concerns about the people using the iPad for emails that don't get to be public record. And I think they're making a mountain out of a molehill in a certain regard. But some cities are saving a few $1,000s. Other cities are saying they're going to save as much as like $20,000 a year on paper costs. So it certainly is one of those things we talked about when the iPad first came out, is really the ability to how much you can use electronic text and really save on paper. And as opposed to the Kindle, where I know some people use the Kindle to print to and did things like that, but I think the iPad is certainly something that people are using more and more for that kind of thing. I know I do it a lot. I save a PDF, and instead of printing a document, I print a PDF and I sync it to the iPad, and I've got it with me.
Yep. And you don't have sync tools like Evernote on the Kindle or similar things. There's more tools than Evernote, but Evernote's a good example. You don't have tools like that make it so it's just everywhere.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. So
And-
then,
sorry. Go ahead with Flipboard as well here.
yeah. So the next day was a big article on Flipboard, and it included the CEO of Flipboard picture and whatnot. So, and I don't think this audience, needs to be told anything about Flipboard. I think we've already covered it a few times,
Yes,
and they
we
probably
have. It's,
probably all have it on their
social
iPad now.
magazine.
But it's interesting that essentially, this technology column was telling all of the U.S. about Flipboard on the iPad, and that one more one more reason for people to get an iPad.
Yeah. Has this happened before, really, where I always thought the technology column was for, I don't know, less apps, but more new devices and products. And
I think it usually is, and so that's kind of what caught my eye was, here it was talking about the whole time, was talking about one application which runs on one platform. It's not like, it's something that was available on every platform. It only runs on the iPad. So it was interesting that a national newspaper would put that.
yeah, I
out
wonder as more and more of these unique iPad applications get developed, if that'll happen more. It's kind of unusual, I think. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yep.
And this one I saw earlier this week, and I just forgot to put in the show notes, but I'm thankful you put it in here. Do you want to talk about this OS X tablet we have now?
Yeah, so this company, Axion Logic, is bringing out Axion Haptic tablet, and it's a 10-inch touchscreen, and they say it runs a variety of operating systems, Windows, Linux, and Darwin. And it talks about Darwin a lot, and in fact, I think that it seems to be that Darwin is the core operating system that they have on it. So, in other words, if you ran Windows, you would probably be running, starting up in Darwin and then switching to Windows.
Yeah.
But of course, Darwin being the public domain core of OS X, OS 10, and I'm sure that this tablet will run OS 10 probably right out of the box.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting that this is yet another answer to this desire of people to have ultra portable devices like this. Certainly, it's like the Axiotron mod book in that.
Yeah, I've heard those, and that's what basically they turn a MacBook into a tablet by putting some. It's the writing kind of tablet, so it's not touch based.
Right. It's although they now offer a screen that does both pen
nice.
and touch.
It's a very expensive way to do it.
Yeah, more expensive, but they take essentially they've taken for several years now. They take a base 13-inch MacBook, and they turn it into a tablet by taking off the screen and replacing the top of the case and the keyboard, and replacing the top of the case with a bezel and a touch screen that fits right down on the logic board. So you have the bottom part of a MacBook, and right on the top is your touchscreen, and that's always intrigued me. I mean, before the iPad came out, I seriously several times started collecting money to try to figure out how to buy one of those because it just was something I really wanted to do, and tablet PCs just turned me away with the lack of good software on them.
Yeah, yeah. The good thing about the mod book is you're actually running a MacBook, which they're really fast now, and so it would be a good experience, especially since they've added touch now, and with this Axon haptic, the price is right. I think the mod book, I think they run around 2,000 if I'm not mistaken, somewhere high like that. This one,
the mod book is essentially about 800 or 900 higher than a MacBook price. So you can either supply the MacBook and pay the difference, or you can get it all from them. But yeah, this one is I think that we're talking about 800 or something, under 1,000, and it's smaller, but it certainly
powerful too.
Yeah, definitely less powerful. But it's kind of like what do they call those little tiny PCs now? I forgot.
The netbook tablet thingies.
Netbooks. It's a netbook tablet kind of thing, but it's probably one that you don't have to Hackintosh to run. OS.
Do you know how
OS
they
10?
get around the Apple? They had what do they call them? They had some Apple clones recently, and they got sued or whatever.
Well, one of the problems with those clones were that they were talking about how they were actually trying to provide OS 10 with the machine, because they had to modify drivers to make it work. And so here, because they've gone toward Darwin, and Darwin is open source, as long as they have the EFI booting and it boots into Darwin, well, then I think it's just an easy thing for a user then to do all of what's needed to make it run OS 10. And they're out of that legal issue because they're just supplying it to run Darwin.
Yeah. Okay.
So
very interested. I'll be interested to see user feedback and reviews of this device. I think it won't be. The iPad's really a fast device for the what power is in it, so it'll be interesting to see. If you want an OS X tablet, it's here, but do you truly want it? Sort of deal.
Yeah, if they had brought this out a year ago, I think they would have done killer business.
Oh, they would have, yeah.
But now with the iPad, I think they've lost a huge part of their market.
Yeah, they have. And, iPads will be coming, they'll be more and more advanced over time. And the reason this show title gets its name is, I believe, we will one day, just as in Terminator 2, see liquid metal iPads. How was that for a transition?
That was a very good transition. Very good transition. Very interesting turn of phrase that has been happening since Apple acquired the rights to this technology. So have you read up on it, Tim?
I've been reading up on it. I'm trying to understand. I'm guessing it's not the same liquid metal I saw in Terminator 2 where they actually...
No.
they're actually change shapes and stuff. Basically, it sounds like it's a very much more durable aluminum or metal that they can use now. Is that what liquid metal really is? It's not the term.
Well, what it's all about is that they this company has the ability has determined how to treat metal and alloy metal in such a way that when they cool, they have vastly different properties from the original metal, and so those properties include the ability to durability. I think better conductance in some cases. They also liken it. This one article in the Huffington Post likens the metal to more like a glass structure than a metal structure, and consequently that changes its properties. So what this means for us is that they will probably be using this in things like the basic chassis or frame of future devices. So I don't see them necessarily creating the whole back out of liquid metal. I imagine that it's probably a fairly costly thing to do over, a straight metal. But
oh, really? Okay. Is it a heavier material, you think?
well, I think that there's a number of different kinds, is the impression I got. There wasn't just one metal. It was a number of different alloys that they have treated this way. And then they become useful in different things. So, for instance, they might
Perhaps
use it
the antenna.
Perhaps the antenna. They could do it in certain areas where there was excessive wear or they needed more strength. So they could make thinner, lighter devices because the strength of a metal could be enhanced by this process. But it's certainly an interesting thing, and I know several people have kind of combined it with the fact that Apple still has this data center that is in the southeast that's going to go online at some point in time, and Skynet is going to be
it's like I read Liquid Metal and I think T2, he's making knives out of his hands and all sorts of things. But I have a question. Would in the original iPhones and even the iPads, you can get this wear down here of this polish? Is this something that would happen on a liquid metal?
Well, I think it depends upon whether that metal was being treated for durability or was it being treated for conductance or magnetic properties or whatever. I don't think it's a one kind of thing like you zap the metal and it gets all of these enhanced properties. I think you kind of do something different to get different properties. But yeah, I mean, if they were treating the back of the case and creating that out of liquid metal, they'd probably be doing it for durability and strength, and so you probably wouldn't get those wear marks on it.
Well, that would definitely be a good thing. And one thing was interesting to note: they've signed basically a contract or licensed it out, so no other competitors. We couldn't have an Android tablet made out of liquid metal. And they could license out to kitchen appliances or things in unrelated fields, but Apple kind of has a monopoly.
Consumer electronics, right?
Exactly.
Yep. Yeah, so it's a big deal for Apple, for consumer electronics to have the ability to use this material that nobody else can use, or materials, I guess.
Yeah, is this a monopoly type thing where they could get in the? I don't know. There's different materials out there, so it couldn't.
Yeah, it's not a monopoly, and there's no unfair trade or anything. It's just an exclusive licensing for a material,
Yeah.
And nothing wrong with that. So
okay, yeah, I know they'll have an edge with having this pretty cool material to use in their products.
Yeah, we should see some very innovative products come out of it.
Yeah, definitely. They could get, I think, smaller form products than we already have, which could be cool. Yeah.
Yep.
One software update that Apple sent out this week that I hope you guys don't install unless you're really not a jailbreaker is the OS 3.2.2, and all it does is fix the bug which allows you to jailbreak. and I'm not updated to this on any of my devices. But if you want to fix that bug for whatever reason, as many security people would like to do, you can. Have you updated to this, John?
I have not, and that's probably because I still have in the back of my mind that I need to do something like video out or screen captures or something that I might need to jailbreak. So I read about this and I was like, well, maybe I don't need to update just yet.
Yeah,
although
you could always jailbreak, and in Cydia you can actually patch that PDF bug, which Apple does an entire OS release to do.
Well, they don't actually patch it in Insidia. What they really do is just give you a warning when it might be exploited.
I see.
So they haven't patched it. So it doesn't stop it from happening. It just warns you, and you can manually stop an attempt to do it. But you don't even know if it's actually doing it. It's just warning you, saying
every time you view a PDF, is that what it's doing?
Yeah. Every time
I've not
you're going to do
yet, so.
view a PDF, it will warn you, saying, this could be exploiting this hole, and so do it with some caution.
Okay.
But if you're not going to jailbreak, I would encourage everybody to get the patch, because it's just going to make your browsing on the internet safer.
Sure, that's a good thing. Yeah.
if you're considering jailbreaking, or you have jailbroken your device, then stay away from this patch right now.
Yeah. And the jailbreak experience on 3.2.1 is fantastic. I've done it and it works great. I talked about how my iPad crashed a few days ago, and it's back up and running thanks to this awesome jailbreak. And it's a lot faster now too. So I think the crash was actually good for it. Need a little refresh. So one thing I wanted to mention the week before was App Store. The Apple Store for apps is now featuring a newsstand, comics, and radio. So different entertainment things. And I think the important ones here are newsstand and comics. So basically, the iBook store is not the most suitable for these formats. And Apple's saying, hey, the App Store is a good place for that, and we're going to feature these apps that take advantage of that. I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it's great that Apple is realizing that some things just don't work necessarily through one medium or one mechanism, and they're understanding that they need to be a little flexible in the sales for different things. So
yeah,
that's good.
I think it'd be cool if OS 5 comes out next year. If they had a iNews and iComics, they had individual apps that could have Apple's individualized stores for. I think they should start looking into that so they could have a more uniform way of pushing this kind of medium out to users. Is there a need for this, you think?
Well, I think that they need to keep exploring all kinds of ways of getting to people with different types of media. So
yeah, definitely.
It's all good.
And so check that out if you're looking for news apps that we have not covered. There's some more in there. And I wanted to cover like a little segment here on tethering between your iPhone and your iPad. I got a listener request on this one, and I just wanted to cover the different ways you can do it. The first way, and it's really my recommended way, is with MyWi. It will drain your battery faster, but basically it'll turn your iPhone, if it's jailbroken, or your iPad, if it's jailbroken, with 3G, into a wireless hotspot. And it's, I think, the easiest, quickest way to tether or share your internet connection with another device. The other ways of doing it are, there's an app called iTether, and this is a pretty cool one. It actually enables you to have the iPad gets its tethering ability from its iPhone to the iPad through Bluetooth, is my understanding of it. Kind of fixing that bug, I guess, that Apple left out. And what you need to have for this to work, though, is official support on your carrier or some sort of patch that says I can turn on that Bluetooth or it's Bluetooth or USB tethering to your Mac or Windows. You'd have to have that switch be able to turn on and off, which you can do if you jailbreak with TetherMe for $2. It'll turn that switch on, basically. So those are the different kind of ways to do it. I think MyWi is the best, but iTether with TetherMe is a good option. and you only need a jailbreak. One of the devices is one of the devices with MyWi, either your iPad 3G or your iPhone, and then with iTether, it's designed to be installed on your iPad, and if your iPhone it's got that on-off switch for tethering, you don't need a jailbreak, but many people don't have that, so you'll need a jailbreak to install TetherMe or whatever. So I think those are the ways. I'm missing any, John, that you know of?
Not that I know of. And I think you would probably recommend, if you had a choice of MyWi on either the iPhone or the iPad, you'd probably recommend the iPad for its battery life, right?
Yes, if you are doing the unlimited plan on your iPad, I would really recommend MyWi because the battery life it's great. I mean, you can probably run it for 5-6 hours. Depends how you need it, but the iPhone, it will be dead, I think, in 2 hours. And yeah, I think the question here was for if you have an iPad Wi-Fi, how you do that without jailbreaking your iPad. But if people are looking for this as a solution for using your iPad as your mobile hotspot, which I do, I use my iPhone now as a T-Mobile prepaid plan and don't have any data with that. So my iPad is that mobile data for me. So that's how I use it. So MyWi is fantastic for that. And with that said, you're not a jailbreaker or a tetherer, are you, John?
No, not yet.
Okay.
I
You're
keep
still on
being on the
Wi-Fi most of the
verge.
time, aren't you?
What's that?
You're still in like Wi-Fi hotspots pretty much all day, aren't you? Or
No, well, when I'm at work, but when I'm traveling around, I'm using 3G a lot,
okay. And then you've got the
you know-
iPad 3G, so it's not really a
right.
And you have
Right.
iPhone with 3G, so not really
Yeah.
an issue. Yeah.
So, but for my laptop, because there have been a couple of instances where, I'd be going around somewhere and I needed to do something and it wasn't doable on the iPad, and I either have to find a Wi-Fi hotspot for the laptop, or I'm again that's I think one of those three things that I will keep looking at jailbreaking for is tethering.
Yeah, and one thing is if you had an iPhone 4 or a jailbroken, basically jailbroken so you can actually install it, is they had a flashlight app a while back for iPhones to do tethering to your Mac or Windows machine, and I snagged it, but I already have NetShare as well, so I've got both of the official ways that were yanked out of the App Store to do this.
I missed out on both of those, unfortunately.
Yeah, NetShare was, I think, the very, very early days. It was $10, and I bought it and used it quite a bit. It worked great for your Mac. And then the Flashlight app has this little Easter egg that I've never tested because it's on my iPhone, and I don't have data on it. So, oh well. But yeah, the next big topic, I think I kind of discovered this when I was talking with macOS Ken on his live show about Chopper 2. Chopper 2 is, I think, your pick of this week, and we've talked about it before. It's kind of perfect, I think, for this Apple TV, the iTV, what it was originally codenamed as, redesign. And the concept here is the iPad is using video out, and it has to be enabled by developers. It has to be designed for the TV to do that. And I think the reason Apple may be doing this is to have apps ready to go for this iTV refresh without telling developers, because they'll work better, right? With Chopper 2, if you have an Apple TV, which this new one is supposedly just going to be a small little iPhone that you just have constantly hooked up, you have that launch Chopper 2, and then it connects with your iPhone as its controller. So I think this is one app that really highlights that this is maybe a direction Apple's moving. Netflix is another one. Air Video is another one that kind of shows this. But I think Chopper 2 is the biggest one, and why Apple doesn't want a simple mirror. Is this a good train of thought? Is this all wrong? What are your thoughts here?
No, I mean that's a very good supposition that that's part of that whole thing. I think Apple was really probably the first company with their Mac software to allow you to use from a laptop, use and show something different on an external display. Early Windows was pretty much just mirroring the built-in display. It was really about replacing the laptop screen with a desktop screen, not really providing additional screen space. And so, I think that's something that's always in Apple's mind is that whole thing. But in addition to that, I think that Apple is really just kind of letting developers figure out what are the best ways to deal with an external screen and what are the uses for it. And I think there's different use cases for both a mirrored screen as well as a separate screen. Keynote is a case in point. I think Keynote was actually before, if I'm not mistaken, before PowerPoint in using an external monitor to show the presentation and showing speaker notes on your laptop display, and really using those two things in coordination. And so I know that there's going to be a lot of iPad apps in that vein. In fact, I'm surprised that Keynote on the iPad doesn't do more of that. It does. It's pretty rudimentary in what it does.
I wish it did do show notes on the iPad itself besides the remote. Right.
But I think that different apps are going to have different needs, and certainly the Apple TV or the iTV, as it will probably be renamed, will certainly utilize some of that capability, and having developers really understand how to do whatever they want to do with video out is a big plus, certainly, having them prepared for that. So it's all about getting that into the hands of developers, and I'm glad that they've done more of that with the iPad. I mean, originally the iPhone had some capability of doing that, but it wasn't necessarily really easy to do, and initially it was using a lot of private APIs, so you couldn't necessarily roll it out into your application through the App Store. I know, like we added it to a demo version of our first app for the iPhone, as a way of potentially trying to show it off, where we could project to a screen the actual iPhone screen, but we could never include that in our application because initially it was using private APIs. So now Apple has made that more mainstream, and really we'll see a lot more inventive use of it as we go forward.
Yeah, and this VGA cable really adds to that. They've really said, hey, you can use this to share your presentations and more now with different applications that utilize this. And I think the way this iTV will act is, I think we'll have universal apps with iTV support and even standalone apps, but you'll have a traditional remote, I think, to just click and select an app, and then it'll just launch, and it'll have to be some way of just clicking through the stuff you need to turn on and off and select. And I'm just trying to think through how these apps would be translated to the TV, and I think these TV designed apps are going to be something that the iPad will, make developers comfortable with at first.
Right. Yep, definitely.
And iOS, with that, iOS 4 is coming pretty soon to the iPad this fall, and summer is, I think, almost over. Do you know when summer ends, John? Is it the 30th?
It would be on the 21st or thereabouts, because those are always the equinoxes. So,
or August?
So it was actually, I think it was June 21st through, I guess, September.
Okay. So yeah, it's coming within a month is fall, and it won't be till the end of fall, I'm guessing. But I think we'll have an event pretty soon for the new iPod Touches and those other iPods that are used occasionally. And we'll see iOS 4, on the iPad as a demo beta for developers. Do you think there will be any more features coming? I'm thinking of printer support, perhaps better file management, and these might make their way to the iPhone 2 in this 4.3 update or 4.4 update. What do you think on this one?
Well, I certainly expect a few new features. I don't expect a lot of new features, but I expect a few new features beyond what the iPhone is doing. And that's, I think that makes sense why it's been delayed as long as it has. A lot of us thought that once the iPhone 4 was officially released and iOS 4 was out for the iPhone, that we'd start seeing a developer beta for the iPad come out, but we haven't seen that yet. So, it's something that makes me think that they're doing something, adding something to it. I don't think it would have taken this amount of time to just get what's running on the iPhone running on the iPad, since half of the new features, maybe not half, but quite a few of the new features in iOS 4 for the iPhone were already kind of pioneered in the iPad 3.2.
Yeah, exactly. Do you think the interface of the iPhone scales up well to this iPad, especially as you add multitasking? And does that work? Will they need to redesign this at all?
I would think that multitasking might be a candidate for having a slightly different interface on the iPad.
Oh, I just thought of something. On the Mac, you hit Command Tab. What if on the iPad, it's not on the bottom, it's in the center of the screen as some sort of overlay? Is that, I don't know, would that work well, or?
It might. Certainly, I think putting it on the iPhone with the screen real estate available, they did probably as good as can be done. But I don't know that makes a whole lot of sense, particularly with the home button being where it is on the iPad. And if you look at a lot of the apps from Apple, as well as, in fact, I don't know if I've mentioned this on the show, but I don't know how many people wear polarized sunglasses, but if you wear polarized sunglasses and try to look at the iPad with those sunglasses on, you can tell that it is really designed to be a landscape device and not a portrait device, because you cannot read it in portrait mode. You can only see the screen in landscape mode, which puts the home button on the left or the right side, right? And so it seems like it would be less natural to bring up a list of apps. I mean, I guess you could put it wherever the bottom of the screen is, but that's either going to limit how many apps you put on in landscape mode, or it just seems like it very well could be a candidate for reworking a little bit for the larger screen real estate and making it a little bit more intuitive to a big screen.
Yeah. Are there any features? Do you think printer will come to this? Printer support jobs? I think sent an email that it's coming, and it's been a while. So I think we've waited a while. I think
Apple has recognized the fact that this device is just not a watch video, listen to some audio, and read some books for pleasure. That people want to be able to use this as a basic computer and be able to print out from it. And a lot of people at one point in time, a lot of people never considered buying a computer if you didn't have a printer with it. It was like, well, how do I get stuff out of this box? And we're less that way in our digital world these days, but still there's a lot of folks that are like, I want to be able to print something and there's obviously a number of third-party solutions, but I think Apple needs to embrace a solution themselves.
Yeah, the Newton had printer support as well as fax support, so I think they're able to do it, and they'll find a good way to do it with networked printers instead of that hardwired cable like the Newton did.
Right.
And I think Jobs himself said the iPad is content creation device as well as a content consumption device at the D event earlier this year. So I definitely recognize that, I think.
Yeah, and I think what we're doing is discovering, new ways of creating content where something so ultra mobile, and it's kind of been pioneered on phones, but the iPad really opens up a lot of possibilities that we didn't have with phones.
Yeah. I would truly love to see scanner support. Now that's a very long shot, but that camera connection kit, I'm just dying to see that being added because you could scan documents, you could, get rid of the big ones easily, the bad ones easily, and I think it'd be a great device for just scanning documents. You just have a scanner sitting at the kitchen table with his iPad, and it could be scanning and getting your office paperless. I think that'd be pretty.
Well,
pretty cool.
that's a very good point, Tim. I mean, if you think about it, what is a scanner doing that a camera doesn't do? Right? It's just taking a picture of a document. So, I think that would be throw some drivers on there for us, Apple, because the camera connection kit probably is all we need.
Yeah.
And go for it.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, let's get on. We're kind of in the final parts of the show here. I want to get on to. I received 2 items from Gadget Freeway. They are sponsoring this podcast. And the first one is the iPad Pillow. When I first heard about this, I thought this was going to be one of those crazy devices, crazy pieces of gear I could have. But I was dead wrong. And I'm saying this because I've always tried to find a case that would enable me to use my iPad in bed, not in just that landscape mode, but also in the portrait mode. Because I like to read my books vertically, not horizontally, because the text is so small that way. Or, we've discussed why you want to read it vertically. And this, it's an iPad Pillow. I'm trying to get it here on the screen here. Here we go. And basically what it does is it's got at the very front of it a hard, basically resting point for your iPad. So you can rest your iPad in this little crevice here. And you have beanbags inside that can be replaced if you need to wash it or whatever. And it's a very comfortable device, pillow or whatever to use to easily adjust, because they are beanbags. You're able to adjust how high you want the iPad, what angle you want and everything. And it feels good in bed. You don't, because it's not leather, it's not getting on your skin and sticking and all that. It's a pillow, so it feels natural in the bed. And I found it's just a great little pillow to have around the house for your iPad, because of it's just such a comfortable device to use with your iPad in bed. Another cool thing is there's a little back pouch here, zipper that opens up, so the entire back of your iPad can be put inside this pillow. And one cool thing I thought of is if you're sharing your room with another person, you don't want to wear headphones at night, you can now use this pillow as a speaker right behind your head, so you don't have to worry about losing your earbuds. And you can kind of use that for your sound at night for listening to Pizziz once that makes its way to the App Store. And another cool thing is it's got these little hooks here. So if you're traveling, you can use this as your case, and it works really well with this Apple case, which isn't a bag at all. And with airlines, you actually have to pay money for pillows now, and this could be your pillow on the airplane as well. So a lot of cool things, and it kind of surprised me how well I liked it. I'm using it every night now to use my iPad in bed. So check it out. It's at gadgetfreeway.com. It's $30, and it's a good price for what they're offering. It's made by them. It's not some device that they bought from someone else. It's made in the U.S. and all that good stuff. Do you have any questions about the pillow, John? It's kind of a different little
it's
gadget.
Yeah, it's interesting. I would, looking over the Gadget Freeway and all the things they have there, I kind of glossed over the iPad Pillow, but now that you describe it, and I'm looking at the pictures on the website right now, it sounds like a great thing to have. I didn't even think about using it as a way to use your headphones when you're sleeping, because I actually sometimes do that as a good way to, if you're traveling, to kind of relax, is to use Pizziz or one of these other programs that help you, and that's a very, very good thing. So yeah, it's I'm gonna have to take a look at this.
Yeah, I mean, it's only $30, which I'm not good on guessing prices with other accessories, but I think it sounds like a pretty fair price for what you get out of this. because basically if you have an Apple case already, you might be looking for an even better way to prop it up at night. I know I was, and that's kind of why I used the in-case convertible book jacket. I called it my home case, is what I called it. And the reason I needed that case was because the Apple case wasn't up to stuff for watching videos and enjoying your iPad in bed at night. And the pillow kind of solves this, and it's only $30. So yeah, it's pretty cool. And you can wash it and things like that. It's just they've thought it through. I think is what I get from using this is they've thought it through. That it was made for the iPad. It wasn't one thing that was already available, and they just, hey, let's use this for iPad.
So Tim, how sturdy is that little rigid part on the bottom that holds your iPad?
It's pretty sturdy. I'm gonna have a hard time showing this on video, but let me.
Is it like a heavy gauge plastic, or
yeah, it's a heavy gauge plastic, and let's see if I can show this on video here. But here it is, and as you can see, I can actually prop it up even higher with the beanbags and all that kind of stuff. And it's easier to adjust in bed when it's on your lap as far as the beanbags and their position and all that. But you can do it like that. You can do it like this. What I found too is it works great with, use your Apple case like it propped up already. If you have the thicker part on top, it works really well because it adds to that. It's even more vertical because the Apple case helps with that. So it really works great in conjunction with the Apple case. I found it works, well with standalone iPads as well too.
Very good, very good.
But yeah, it's a pretty cool, pretty cool little pillow there, and
and as you mentioned, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, you can use it on the plane as a pillow. You can use it if you're a photographer. Sometimes you need a pillow for your camera, or a bean bag for your camera, so you've got the bean bags already there. So, good device.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. And a cool thing is it also makes your iPad, if you put it in its back pouch, not look like an iPad. It won't look like a computer laptop bag, or it won't be something that people want to steal because it looks like a pillow. So that's a definite plus as well. And the next accessory, and this is something I've wanted to try out for a while, is this anti-glare protector. And I think the iPad screen is fantastic, but if you're in any kind of light setting, it's not the best thing to have here. So basically what it is, it's $30 as well, and it just goes on your iPad as a screen protector. And I've always been hesitant upon putting these on screens and iPhones and stuff because I tend to think they will make it look like there's something on it and make it look, there'll be air bubbles or something in there that it just doesn't look quite right. And with this one, I've used invisible shields in the past, and you have that liquid stuff and all that. This one, you don't have liquid stuff. It's weird. It's got some sort of adhesive, but it's not sticky. I don't know. It kind of connects to the iPad screen in a way that doesn't leave residue and things like that. And I put it on. It took a couple tries, but after a few tries, put it on. Used a credit card to get rid of the air bubbles. It's on perfectly. I can't see any. I basically can't tell there's a screen protector on, except for the fact that I get all the benefits of the screen protector. So basically, why would you want this? And I'm going to leave it on my iPad because it fixes two of the biggest problems with the screen. The first is the glare problem. As if you're watching the video feed, that's what it looks like without the screen protector on. You can see my face, you can see that light there. And when I move it to this one, you can't see that at all. You can't see my face, so if you run into the problem of watching videos and just looking at your face, which I used to have happen, you don't have that anymore. You're able to use it outside much more easily, and also the fingerprint issue, right? So with the iPad, you have all these fingerprints that they just come up no matter what you do. With the screen protector, they're there. You don't see them, though. They don't mark up your screen, so you have to wipe it down every day. You don't really have to wipe it down at all with this protector on it. So I think it's one of those accessories that I think should be on pretty much every iPad if you tend to use it in situations with light. So, any thoughts on this one, John?
Well, actually, this is one that I am about to crack open my wallet for. It's friend at work who has an iPad, and I were both traveling this last week, and we both had complained about somebody having a nice view out the airplane window, but all the sun was coming in and made it difficult to be able to watch anything on our iPads, and so I'm sure it wouldn't be 100% eliminated, but it will be greatly improved with the screen protector, the anti-glare. So I'm definitely going to get one.
Yeah,
Yep.
it definitely cuts down on everything. And the surprising thing is, it's not surprising, but the screen of the iPad is beautiful to begin with. It makes it stay beautiful. It doesn't deteriorate the image quality. It's still a pleasant video watching experience, and probably even a better one, especially on in airplanes with light. You'll want something like this.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting when laptops and everything went to glossy screens. I mean they did that because the blacks in videos are more black without the anti-glare screen, but you need kind of ideal viewing conditions to not get enough glare that it deteriorates from having the blackest blacks, in my opinion. My laptops have the matte screen, and now I'm gonna have my iPad have the matte screen as well.
Yeah, that's kind of been a big discussion in the laptop community if Apple would get rid of the matte screen altogether. And I never did like the glossy screens. I guess I was always just a matte guy. But installation was pretty simple. Took a couple tries, and I basically just made sure around the home button that everything was equal distance across, and just used a credit card to get rid of everything, and make sure your iPad's clean before you put this on. So you want your fingerprints, wiped off first.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's I think a great investment to keep your screen in good quality and make your iPad more usable, especially outside. I'm really looking forward to now using the iPad on hikes because I now can, because I can actually see the screen, and I don't have to worry about dirt getting on it, and all that kind of stuff. So
Sure.
So that's those are all from Gadget Freeway, and I'd like to thank them for sending me those to me and sponsoring this podcast. And if you want to support this show, the best way to do that is simply go to Gadget Freeway and check out that iPad pillow, the anti-glare protector, and the iPad case bag, as I like to call it. They're all available there at gadgetfreeway.com. So with that said, let's get on to our picks of the week. And you've got a couple for us today, John. Let's get rolling with them.
Yeah, well, as you mentioned earlier, Chopper 2, I actually downloaded this, I think a few weeks ago, and didn't have a lot of time to play it until this last week. And now that I've been playing it, it is a phenomenal application. So, fun application, not incredibly expensive. I'm trying to see here what it went for, but it's fun to play just on the iPad, but it's also even more fun to play if you use if you have an iPhone or an iPad Touch and can control the chopper from the other device. Very, very smart way of doing an application, a game. So I'd just say go check it out.
Yeah, for sure. That's one we've talked about a lot. I had a whole episode on the Apple video game system, and this being an example of the first app to really take advantage of that. So pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, a number of apps have, kind of shared screens and done things like Scrabble and things like that. But this one's kind of a unique one. And it's only $2.99 I see in the App Store. So check it out is what I would say.
Very cool.
The other one is one that I know you've had for a little while, and I toyed with getting, but its price kept me away until this last week when it went on sale. I don't know if it's still on sale, but Nova is, and and it does look like it's still on sale right now as we speak. That's near Orbital Vanguard Alliance or something such. It's one of your typical space first person shooters, and I'm just barely scratching the surface of this thing. But I loved Halo, and I loved the roots of Halo, which was the Marathon series on the Mac ages ago now. But Halo and unfortunately I keep thinking I'm going to get an Xbox 360 and have yet to do that. So I have only had the first version of Halo to run on the laptop, but now I've got this on the iPad, and it probably is even better. So another game to check out and spend copious amounts of time that you don't have playing.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, 99 cents is killer. So I bought this at, I think, $7, $8, $10 when it came out earlier. And yeah, it's kind of Halo for the iPad, and it is a very well put together app. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely get it while it's on sale. I mean, even if you only play it one time, it's probably worth 99 cents. So go for it.
Well, very cool. And I've got multiple ones, and I'll try to get through these as quickly as I can. The first is Friendly, and people may know that there is no official Facebook app for the iPad, and that's partly because Facebook works really well in the Safari web browser. But what they've done, what Friendly's done, is create a Facebook app for the iPad, and it's a beautiful interface. You're able to jump between news feed and loads up there, and live feed right now, requests. You have your profile, inbox, all those good things, friends, all that. So it's a beautiful interface, and yeah, I mean, it works really well as far as accessing Facebook. And what I like it for personally on my iPad is I want to be able to be logged in Facebook all the time, but not want everybody to be able to jump on my iPad and look through my Facebook. So
yeah, definitely.
So what I use this in conjunction with, if you're a jailbreaker, this is for jailbreakers. Lock2Plus, I think it's called, has a way to password protect certain applications. So I have this one password protected, and you just enter a password, and it will launch the application. And I think that's a great app to use in conjunction with this. It's I think it was a couple bucks, Lock2Plus, but how that app works is you simply start moving icons around like you normally do, and you'll see this little lock icon that can either be black with Madden, which it's not right now, or red with Friendly. So that one is now password protected. So you just click on the lock, like I did right there, and it's now locked. So you have to enter the password to unlock it, and I'm doing that right now. But that's another great jailbreak app if you're looking for ways so so people borrowing your iPad can't access private data. Like if you have Evernote that has all this very secure data that you need locked away, that's one way to do it. So that's Lock2Plus. And then the next, any questions about any of that, John? Sorry.
That's really a cool app, and looks like the fourth app that may make me want to jailbreak. Yeah, very cool.
And I think, let me try this. I think it prevents people from deleting it. Let's check here. Okay, Okay, it does not prevent deletion. I think there's other apps for that. So I just deleted Friendly on X. Just testing it out. I'll download it later again. But it doesn't prevent deletion. But yeah, that's a great app to make sure people don't get into your private stuff. You don't want bank account stuff being accessed by anybody.
Yeah, it'd be good if they could add that prevent from deletion. Because, when you delete an app, its data goes, right?
Yes.
So if you have stuff, you're going to lose it.
Yeah. And another thing I'd love for Lock2Plus to add, a weird name, but is with these SB settings to add a on, off, and you enter your password to turn it on or off. Because there's sometimes I don't want it turned on, and I just want to launch up my apps. And sometimes I know I'm giving to somebody, let me turn on the password protection for those apps, and when I have it back, I know it's in safekeeping. I'll turn it off again. I think that would be a great feature to add as well. And with that, Madden has been released for the iPad and iPhone. And they've done a killer job, I think, with this application. I think it's, $7, something like that. And the interface is what's caught me. It's really a fantastic interface. I'm actually in the middle of a playoff game right now. So I'm going to do a field goal block right now here. And you have your control panel here to control your players. You can change plays midway here. And you're able to also do what they call a live, planning out your routes on the spot. So you're able to tell your players in your offensive mode, you can actually draw out lines of where you want your people to go. So I'm trying to get to a mode where I can actually do this. Let me just get tackled real quick here. And I should be able to do that. And the players will run automatically, but you can control them as well, which is cool. So let me just do a passing play here. See, in your offensive mode, you have play type, short pass, long pass, all that kind of stuff. You can do it by formations too, I guess, shotgun or whatever. So let me do in this a short pass here. You can see this little button here. And right now, you're actually able to edit where people go. So you just draw out, hey, I want this guy to go here. I want this guy to go here. Select a person. Oops. Here we go. Oopsie. So let's see. Select there. All your people that are going out into the field or whatever. And in defense, it has the same thing where people doing the blitz or whatever. You can route out their plans, and so you can basically on the spot create your own plays or whatever. And I think this is a really innovative way to do a sports game. And I think it's a great way for coaches. You can try out plays and see how well it works. And for players to get an idea of how all the players work together as one and that whole concept. And I think it's a pretty cool concept here. And I think it's just a very well-designed app meant for the iPad. And I think this is
very cool.
One of the first. There's a lot of sports apps for the iPad, but this is one of the better ones, I think.
Yeah, and I looked it up in the store. It's $12.99.
Okay, $12.99. I actually got this one for free. So just full disclosure, the apps I talked about today are free of charge to me, but still good apps. So two more. Let me see if I can just run through these real quick. The next one is Times, and we've talked about a lot of these RSS readers before. And Times is kind of like early edition, kind of on steroids, I'd say. It's a little bit different. So you don't have your own RSS feeds. You can add them if you want. But so you have your columns here. I'm in the technology area. You have science, technology, arts, sports. And you can just scroll through these here. You can select a story. It, goes down, and you just simply flick up to move the paper up and down here. And you can share it, save it on the web, save it to your shelf or whatever. You're actually able to insert columns and delete columns and different things like that. But it's a very newspaper way of looking at your news for the day. So it's a kind of a cool app. It's, I think, $5, $6, $7. It's not cheap.
$7.99.
Yeah, it's not cheap at all.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, Tim, this is the iPad version of an app that came out on the Mac quite some time ago that I've used on the Mac a number of times, and I was very happy using it on the Mac. But it looks like it's even better on the iPad.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I wish it would sync to Google Reader, and I think they'll add some features over time. But for version 1, I think it's pretty awesome. So that's just another app to look into for reading. It's kind of annoying. We have so many great apps to choose from. How do we choose?
Yeah,
it's kind of a bad problem. Yeah, too many awesome reading apps for RSS and internet information.
Right.
So yeah, that's just another one for the table or whatever. And the final app is Jigsaw. And I've talked about having a puzzle for the iPad for a long time. So we finally have this here. So you have this puzzle here. And you have your main shelving unit, your puzzle area in here. And you simply drag and drop, where you think they should go, and you can move them around or whatever. It's they're pretty basic puzzles to begin with. They're squares, so they're not your traditional puzzle shapes, but I think it's a good design and a good step forward as far as bringing true puzzles to the iPad, as far as the puzzles of you know of them today, you know.
So Tim, have you tried
Oh wow,
an app called Jigsaw Puzzle?
I have not. What is that one called? That looks cool.
It's called Jigsaw Puzzle, and I haven't gotten very far with any of them, but it's very similar to what you were just looking at.
And is it all freeform? Is there any predefined places to put the puzzle pieces?
I think it's all freeform. You can see there's some puzzle pieces here that have lines, corners that you can move around. Like I said, I haven't done too much with it, but it may be what you're really looking for.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to check out. It seems there's a lot more of these than I've looked into. Yeah, there's Super Puzzle. There's a ton of these. I'll have to. Yeah, this is an episode idea right here. I think I'm gonna do an episode on puzzles because there's a lot of them now. I'm just cool. Yeah, that's very cool. So awesome. And the final app, Dragon Dictation, my thoughts about that are on the Friday-Saturday show. So that's just an app to check out, Dragon Dictation. And I really am in love with voice these days. So with that said, do you have any final thoughts before we wrap this up here, John?
No, I think I'm all thought out for the night.
Okay, it ended up being a very long show. Sorry about that, John. It's now hour 40 minutes into it. So, kind of a longer one today.
Yeah, no worries. Good time.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. It's like I wasn't sure if we had enough to talk about because we have no core topic for the day, but it seemed to be plenty to talk about. But with that said, if you want to leave feedback, you can do that by emailing me at iPadPossibilities@gmail.com and calling in the 209-542-iPad. And if people want to get in touch with you, how would they do that, John?
Jay Finnan on the Twitter.
Okay.
Probably be the best place. So.
Okay, very cool. And you're also you blog as well about the iPad as well, right?
Yeah, project-ipad.com is out there, and I'm trying to find time to put some more out. But
is the WordPress app working out for you with that?
Yeah, it is. It is. Particularly with the Bluetooth keyboard, works pretty well.
Okay.
So.
Well, very cool. And with that said, if you want to support this show, the best way to do that would be go to, as I am right now, gadgetfreeway.com and check out the iPad case bag, the iPad anti-glare protector, the iPad pillow, and a bunch of other really cool things. They've got a bunch of cases for the iPad. They've got the outer box cases, which are pretty popular amongst, tech people, I guess. They've got this pretty cool thing I just saw here is the game controller grip, which turns your iPhone into a more traditional looking game controller, like a PS2 controller or something, with your iPhone in the middle there for controlling racing games or whatever. So they've got a wide variety of just unique products. So check it out at gadgetfreeway.com, and that's really the best way to support this podcast, iPad Possibilities. And with that said, you've been listening to John and Tim on tppn.tv. And we will speak to you guys again next Sunday night, and check out the Wednesday and Friday shows later this week. Have a great iPad week.